So far it's been going great, so I can't really complain. What is my opponent playing? Let's see. Well, what I can complain about is that I have the worst tiebreakers of all the 5-0s somehow. Feels bad, man. But I guess we'll just keep on winning, then it should be fine. Vagar. Lego22, thank you for your follow. Vagar plays pretty much everything. Blue-black control in the last challenge, or like 2 weeks ago or something. White-red affinity. Yeah. Wait, affinity is like more than a year ago. Okay, I guess they haven't played that much recently. White-red heroic, wow. Okay, that was something they played like a month ago, and then they played blue-black control, blue-black alchemy. So I think okay, this is going to be a keep regardless. Even though both of these, I guess against heroic my electricity is great. Against blue-black alchemy this is likely just a mulligan already. But it's a reasonable 6-card hand to keep, so I will still end up keeping it. So Prism, Spectre. Prism is strictly better than second clue, basically. It's more mana efficient to play Prism, but Inspector like allows me to get onto the board. Still feel like I want Prism. Also, this makes for a very convenient echoing decay for my opponent, and I am very interested in maximizing my chances of making land drops so I can get to Battle Screech. Yeah, I agree that. Where do I play Pauper? At the moment I only play online. I don't really play Pauper. Island Fish Draconius, wow. That was before my time for sure. I'm not even sure what an Island Fish Draconius is. Wasn't he in one of the master sets actually as a reprint? Let me check. Island Fish. Wow. He was not in the master sets. Does not untap during your untap phase. Cannot attack the construction. I do have to watch out not to time out again. Or not again, I've never timed out, but people will get worried if I spend too much time. I wanted to sack the clue right away so that I can play bounce land or something here and have 4 mana available next turn potentially, rather than develop like another inspector onto the board or something. Well, got kind of rewarded though, running into my opponent's counter as well here. Still seems fine to do so that they can't alchemy on this turn, and trading a flashback card for a count as well also seems fine for me. That allows them minimal amount of counterplay, and the game ones are actually pretty scary because we don't have a great way of dealing with. No, god damn it. Because we don't have a way of dealing with Mole Drifter, I was gonna say. I guess this time I can like respect their counter and wait for them to Mole Drifter. Sure. Because then I can like sack clue, bolt their Mole Drifter, Battle Screech on my turn while they're tapped out. Though this gives them more breathing room to Forbidden Alchemy. Bounce land is pretty nice. That also allows me to get the secluded step back into my hand and potentially cycle it at my opponent's end of turn. We never emptied our mana pool, just use face down cards we went using to represent. Okay. Yeah, that sounds pretty sick. You can very quickly ramp out something big that way. Like turn 1 float mana, turn 2 float mana, turn 3 float mana, turn 4 play some 8-drop or something. So alchemy, no. Gurmag Angler can come down, but I still have an answer in my hand at the ready. Bunch of lands in the preordained, so once again we don't really have any info on what they took. Okay, more inspectors. Inspectors still kind of run into echoing decay, but my opponent hasn't killed them so far, so if they're freely taking chip damage, then I'm fine with that. And then probably run out this Glintalk. Could have done that pre-combat maybe, so that if they counter my Glintalk, I can still better Screech and Flashback. Yes. They're not countering, apparently. Let me check their list again. Do they have an Evinker's Justice? Doesn't seem so. No Evinker's Justice, no Shrivel or anything, so they're pretty weak to the go wide plan. They're all spot removal encounters. 2 Dispels in the main deck is pretty sick though. But yeah, then I can happily keep continuing to go wide on the board. And if they're not countering any of these, then they're kind of wasting their turn. I guess this is another Forbidden Alchemy end of turn? No. Okay, they just wasted 4 mana not doing anything. No removal spell, no draw spell. Didn't counter any of this. Stonebound guys, okay, that is new. They might have changed their deck list up. Matrix just firing shots in the chat. Though I guess Stormbound guys doesn't interact too favorably with Thraben Inspectors. It only blocks flying creatures, so if I cast this, they're likely countering that, or at least they have to. And then I guess I better Screech follow up. And then if they're still on a similar deck list to what they were on previously, I should be in a great spot. Very afraid of Evinker's Justice though. I guess then I'm still not better Screeching if they just let this journey resolve. Wait, actually they can... they have recoil. Huh. That could be very awkward. Okay. I think I'm actually making like a coward attack for 1 turn because I know they had 3 recoil in their deck. And this doesn't make a lot of sense that they just let it resolve and do nothing. Weird. Okay. Now I think I'll stop respecting the recall. I have Prismatic Strands open for their Evinker's Justice, so they need counterspell backup for it to do anything with it. Actually, counterspell backup also doesn't really help. Sure. Yeah, weird game. Weird game. My opponent's kind of not doing anything. It's possible I could have just gone more aggro than I have in multiple spots and just punished them for their wonky draw. Kind of gave them respect in many spots because like they have 6 cards in their hand. It doesn't really make a lot of sense for them to be doing this little, right? And this looks like Dispel, or at least considering Dispel, and then yeah, sure. Yeah. No, I might be in more trouble than I should have been by giving my opponent this much respect. I can give them back the Stormbound guys and then get rid of the Gurmag Angler. Then I have favorable attacks on the ground. Not sure that's a great plan. Palace Sentinels is nice. Okay, let's see if they trade. If they trade, I can Palace Sentinels pretty freely. If they don't, then I guess they're taking damage, so I can't complain there either. Okay, I think I want to run this out now. Yeah, as I said, their previous list didn't really have any board wipes, though if they have one now, could be in trouble. Business logic of making the game more accessible. Strongly disagree with the principles behind that. Yeah, I don't know. I think the game is still plenty complex. Like, all these people playing different games are like complaining that it's not complex enough. Like, this is much more complex than Hearthstone, for example. So don't really have to be too worried about it. Okay, so this angler dude shouldn't be blocking, I think. Yeah, it feels like I'm going to be throwing some material away here, but it should end up with me winning because I'm going so wide on the board. And these blocks don't look like Echoing Decay at all. Sure, Tragic slipped my 1/1 token. Sure thing. Yep. Could have prevented damage from blue sources, but that felt too weak also. I can still, like, Electricity the Moldrifter. Though I don't really want to run into Ghostly Flicker too much, so I would rather them tap some extra mana first. Yeah, I will kill the Drifter, I just didn't want them to flicker it. Yeah, also now they have soul manipulation without getting a creature back, so this sequencing worked out much better for me. Get rid of you. Well, I could have drawn this and played it instead of the bounce land that was slightly loose. Probably should have done that. Like, draw my card first and then I could have Bujuka blocked them. Still seems pretty good spot here. They block, go to 1. 1, 2, 3. Sure. Okay, let's see how they respond to Bujuka Bog, because I still have 4 and 3 open for Palace Sentinels and Prismatic Strands. Yeah, if they flashback Alchemy here, that's pretty great for me, I feel. Sure. So I can put them to 1 and lose a creature for it. Or like lose my Prismatic Strands for like I lose a creature and a Prismatic Strands or 2 creatures. It's a pretty big investment in terms of resources. But putting them to 1 while I'm the Monarch seems pretty favorable still. Probably cast this. And what do I want to save? Like, usually like flying creatures are like obviously better. They might dispel this also, which I wouldn't be too worried about, because that makes my Lightning Bolt top decks a lot better once they're at 1. Yeah, sure. Still have lethal attackers, lethal top decks, and a card draw engine, so Not too worried about it, though playing this pre-combat might have worked out better so that I can flashback Prismatic Strands on my turn and save like one more creature, so they have 5 attackers instead of 4 here. Now some kind of Augur of Bolas into spell sequence might stabilize them for a while. They can win at 1, yes. Their deck is a lot worse at winning at 1 because they don't have access to Prismatic Strands and Lone Missionary. But yeah, they can definitely win at 1. It's difficult for them to win at 1 when I have the Monarch though. Disfigure. So they're still alive here. As I said, Augur of Bolas into spell was exactly what I didn't want to see. This seems ambitious though. They have to counter this Prismatic Strands for the attack to even do anything. And if they don't, then they just have 1 blocker less. Well, I guess they are killing this, but then they still need another spell. Interesting. Okay, perfect. So now they need 2 spells, and their 3rd card also has to be a counter. Like, we know about the Disfigure. Then they need a removal spell for one of my ground creatures. Oh, is this worth it? Probably worth it. So Disfigure. Yeah, one is Disfigure for sure. Then they have 2 more cards in their hand. They need, like, they can block, then have to kill this Raven Inspector also. And then the last card has to counter my Galvanic Blast. I think that's worth making them have it. I mean, it's pretty certain that they have another removal spell, otherwise they wouldn't have made this attack. Yeah, maybe this ground attack is like wasteful. We will see. Still seems like I'm winning here most of the time. Yeah, 2nd Disfigure. And then I guess casting this now is still better than on my opponent's turn, because they can like Forbidden Alchemy or Mystical Teachings into a counter when I do it on their upkeep. So even though I'm potentially tapping them out on their upkeep, it just gives them more outs. Okay, great. Same plan once again. These come in. And what did I do in terms of cutting? I wanted this out. And yeah, I mean, they changed their list. They now have Stormbound Geist in the main deck. Shrivel is their best answer in the sideboard too. I guess Rancid Earth is great. I constantly advocated for people to play more Rancid Earth, which is a land destruction spell that also deals 1 damage to all creatures. So it gives you, in this matchup, like a way to attack my mana generation with Boros Garrison being destroyed, and then also deals with my small flyers at the same time. So it's a great utility card for my opponent to have access to. So these 4 can come out, and then I need like 2 more cuts. But my opponent's list still seems very weak to flyers going wide on the board. So I think I'm just going to cut some bolts and play the value game with them. Journey seems strong against both the Gurmag Anglers and their persist creatures, so Cerodon Yearling. Good card. Yeah, not so sure I would call that a good card. Yeah, Relic is common. It is a common. Are you saying I should be playing it? I'm not so sure. Okay, my hand's pretty slow. Feels like a keep with bounce lands already allowing me to build up to 3 mana, but it's like a cycle artifact away from being great, and even then it's still pretty slow by having only comes into play tapped lands. I guess if I counter a blue spell from my opponent, I get to play my bounce land without discarding to hand size, so that still seems worth doing. But yeah, not ideal. Definitely lower on the spectrum of 7-card hands. Bone Splitter, not that big of a fan. This is not an aggro deck. Well, you mostly want to counter Mole Drifters that stay on the board, but I guess it's very mana efficient for me here to Pyroblast and then develop my bounce land. Though not playing any creature here is pretty awkward. Not a fan of that. But like Core Skyfisher bounce my land also seems weak, so I'm not going to do that. Bonesaw. Come on, chat. You're better than that. Yeah, this is not an aggro deck. It's a red-white control deck. And like sometimes you turn the corner by going by going aggro on them, but it's not really the main game plan. Also, getting your bounce land recoiled is not the main game plan. Especially because my next turn is likely just going to be bounce land again, unless I draw like a 2-mana artifact to play. God damn it. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I can delay it for a turn. But yeah, this is bad for me. Because now they can just like hardcast Mole Drifter at some point. And I don't really have a way to interact with that, and I'm not putting enough pressure on them to punish them for their expensive high curve stuff. Okay, that's pretty decent. That gives me a Core Skyfisher target potentially, though into open mana that's also kind of medium. Well, yeah. Make them disfigure it. And then, okay. Well, then it's great for me if it works out like this. Alchemy. They should have alchemied in response. What the hell? Did they cut all their disfigures? I guess that... No. What the hell? How do you not respond and at least pretend like you have disfigure in your deck and then disfigure my Thraben Inspector in response, so I have to bounce a land or a clue? That made no sense. Like, even if you boarded them out, at least don't give me the info that there's no disfigure left. And if it's in your deck, then it's just an egregious error to not cast Alchemy in response and look for one. Because like I was tapped out with no more land drop left. What am I supposed to do afterwards that you care about? Responding was just free. Bounce itself or storm, yeah. That was my game plan. It might have been better to bounce itself after my Thraben Inspector gets killed. But definitely I wanted to avoid that. It might have been better than bouncing a land or bouncing the clue though. But that's already a huge blowout to make me like kill my Thraben Inspector and make me bounce the Core Skyfisher. Sure. They didn't. Oh no, they added a creature to their graveyard. That sucks for me. So now Soul Manipulation is actually a huge blowout if I cast something into that. Pemin, thank you for your follow. Yeah, don't really like my spot here. Because if I cast like creature into Soul Manipulation, they return their Mole Drifter to their hand and cast Mole Drifter next turn, then I end up in a horrible spot. I think I'm actually passing here. Though second recall also wrecks me. Okay, it's just Alchemy. Sure, I can live with that. Nihil Spellbomb. Okay. And they do still have Disfigure in their deck, which makes sense. Like, why would you board it out against the Glinthawk Thraben Inspector deck? Like, sure, you're trading down in terms of cards when you disfigure a creature that has already drawn a card, but you still need to have some amount of spot removal in your deck to not get overrun. No, but like regardless of whether you have them in your deck or not, it's the correct play to respond. Yeah, there's no upside. Like I'm not going to think he doesn't have his figures. I'm going to think he made an incorrect play. Like if you don't have them in your deck, you want to hide that fact, and if you do have them in your deck, you want to hide that fact as well. So it's just always incorrect to not respond there. Still not a fan of running a creature into soul manipulation. Though I guess if I do that, I get to answer Gurmag Angler. That's the upside. But I would like to delay that until my opponent has... until I have found a Pyroblast, basically. So that I can stop the Muldrifter from resolving. But I don't really see a good way of spending my turn. Like, I can either go for a Thraben Spectre, get it countered, Journey, Glinthawk, or I can, like, Battle Screech, then I just run into their counterspell also. Though maybe Battle Screech into counterspell isn't that bad for me. Yeah, I probably have to just Battle Screech. The upside of not casting Battle Screech was that I can go for, like, 4 mana Battle Screech plus 2 mana Journey next turn, and that might overload their ability to counter. Doomblade in response. Sure. Don't really care about that. I mean, I missed some damage, but I was going to tap it for flashback anyways. Okay, now I can run my creatures into their counter magic without any problem, because, like, counterspell I wasn't afraid of. I was afraid of soul manipulation. Flashing this back gives me a ton of pressure, but it makes my opponent's shrivel really good. I guess it's fine for me still. Still a 1-for-1 trade pretty much, and if they ever don't have shrivel, they take a ton of damage in the air. The record seems wrong. Also, the record shouldn't be on screen anymore, but no, it's correct. The record is correct. Oh no, the MTG bot record, yeah, that often doesn't work correctly. It's often delayed or something. So yeah, we're in round 6 of the tournament and we're up 1-0. The record that was on screen was correct. It's like a solid tier 2 deck. Okay. More Muldrifters is definitely the worst thing to see, though. Probably still have to deal with this Gurmag Angler more than I have to deal with the Muldrifter. And then just shoot this down. And if they flicker, I can respond with another bolt. I mean, my spot here isn't great, but it's also not the end of the world. I think I once again not overextend into soul manipulation and just crack this clue. Really looking for Palace Sentinels or more Pyroblast here. Those would be my best things to find. Also, having a way of clearing my opponent's graveyard when they still have 2 Forbidden Alchemies lying around would be pretty nice. Bojuka Bob would be a reasonable top deck here, though Relic of Progenitors would just be much better for me, of course, because it replaces itself instead of costing me a full land drop and a full card. Okay, once again, pretty unimpressive turn by opponent. And yeah, their deck list seemed super weak to a bunch of flyers, a bunch of tokens basically. So they need to find their shrivel or echoing decay, I guess. Yeah, disfigure my bird token. That is a game plan that I'm comfortable dealing with. And I think if that they get 4 looks at Sack this first to inform my decision, but they get 4 looks or 5 looks at a shrivel here by casting Forbidden Alchemy, so like making more birds is still pretty scary, though that was a huge sign of desperation. 5, 6, 7. I can either try to put the nail in the coffin and make more birds, and then I'm super dead to shrivel, but I'm killing my opponent pretty convincingly if they don't have it. Or I can try to maneuver around it. I think I'm going to just go all in, make them have it. Yeah, I agree. Definitely ask all the questions that you want. Makes my job a lot easier to know what is helpful for you to, like, what questions are helpful for you to get answered, like what topics you want me to talk about. And yeah, I agree that this is a good place to learn about Pauper and Magic in general, so welcome to the stream, welcome to the community, and yeah, glad to have you here. I still feel like I don't want to run into the 2-for-1 soul manipulation. They're far enough behind on board that they likely have to soul manipulate back a Moldrifter from their graveyard just as a disentomb. Oh, they're still not cat. Wait, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, they were 1 mana short of Forbidden Alchemy after the counterspell. That is pretty nice for me, because that basically lost them 6 mana, so incredibly inefficient turn. These battle screeches are just destroying my opponent pretty hard. I think I'm comfortable overextending into the soul manipulation now that it allows me to cast like 3 creatures in the same turn and then still flashback Battle Screech if 2 of them resolve. Do what is funny, okay. Yeah, I'm very much about winning and finding the correct line of play. I'm not the right streamer to go for silly. Sorry to disappoint you. Basically, like, everyone has like their own play style and their own focus in Magic. Definitely I'm more about being analytical and finding the right thing to do, so yeah, there's a soul manipulation that I have been avoiding forever basically, and hopefully that turns out well for me, that I finally ran into it, and I'm hoping to have picked a spot where I can beat it, even though they now did get the full wait. I probably should have recast this beforehand. That was pretty bad. Because, like, obviously I wanted to be bouncing the vial more than I wanted to be bouncing this land. That was loose. Well, I'm not too proud to recast it, but yeah, that was a misplay for sure. Already played a land, sure. That was not good. Yeah, Guardian of the Guild pick is also great in this matchup for sure, especially if they don't have some number of Agony Warps. Like, Agony Warp is the bane of Guardian of the Guild pack's existence in this matchup. So please don't shrivel me. Please don't ever shrivel me, because they're just pretty much dead on board. Not quite. They take 9 in the air if I disable their blocker. Recoil is the new hotness, yeah. I think it's not that good, but my opponent seemed to be buying into the recoil hotness as well. They recoiled my bounce land on turn 3, and now they're getting crushed, so not to be too results oriented, but recoil has not been doing well for them. It was demoralizing, but it didn't really help them at all. In English, please. So if I cast this, bounce this, and they counter it on the way back down, then they can block here, take 7. Or like I sacrifice it, put them to 1. Then my Glinthawk has no value, but they're at 1. I can still bounce the Ancient then again, especially if they... Okay, let's see what they do about this. Oh, there, yeah, recoil against Guardian of the Guildpact is like okay, but they can counter it on the way back down. I've definitely been a fan of this Battle Screech, though I guess it's like overperforming because... So disable this, put them to 1, and they have to deal with my board. Or like I cast this into the counter spell, block here, 7 go to 3. It's pretty close. Yeah, I think bouncing this is still worth it. Wait, what? No. Yes. There we go. If I get a counter out of their hand, that still... Yeah, it works out fine for me, and this way it's much better for me. Because like I get an extra card and they still go to 1, so... And then they have to deal with my Galvanic Blast, so... I guess they can disfigure to go to 3 instead, and then they are still out of range of Galvanic Blast because I don't have Metacraft. Yeah, I played with Guardian and Battle Screech, and they both have their upsides and downsides. Like, Battle Screech is pretty vulnerable to just getting Electric Reed or... They really didn't seem to have a counter spell, so I guess I'll make them have it now before they can do more cantripping. Oh, they did? Okay, then they just let this resolve and my Vial. That seems strange also. I think I'm fine with this, because now how are they winning? Yeah, I've been so far pretty impressed by Battle Screech. Yeah, like there's people who go over even further with the token strategy, play like Rally the Peasants or something. I think that's unnecessary. But just having tokens as both a defensive tool against Delver and an aggressive tool against controlling decks seems pretty nice. Evinkar's Justice, yeah, that is very much what I'm afraid of. The Evinkar's Justice board wipe, killing my opponent and my board presence. Galugaru. Order my triggers for Strix Harpy. What? Okay, I'm not sure what exactly you mean, because there's not... No! We can actually lose! Can we? Let's see, block here, 4, 8... Cartouche of Ambition, what the hell? I think they're still dead on board, they need to remove a spell. No! They go down to 1 again? God damn it. So now I need a removal spell or a burn spell to win. I guess I want to keep this around. Blocking here doesn't really help me much. Wow. That is sick. I only have enough damage to put them down to 1 again. Come on, give me a burn spell. Yes. Okay. Is it better to burn this over their face? Then I'd lose to Ghostly Flicker, I guess. Sure. Like this, all the counter spells, it's the same. Doomblade, wow. Okay, I can still win. I have to block and then bolt my own creature. They go to 3 here after blocking. Wow, what a game. Somehow opponent coming back. Also now I'm actually in timeout trouble if we go to game 3. Like, they still have to top deck here. But I guess they can Forbidden Alchemy. Yeah, this is pretty scary. Okay, then I just win. Yes. He's not watching my stream. I might just win. Come on. I mean, this is reasonable for them because even if they make this block, they're not really winning. But yeah, wow. That Cartouche of Ambition making me sweat.